and I thank all of you. And this is not the first time that we've been fortunate to welcome our guest to speak to the New England Council, but it is the first time since she has made history as the first woman elected governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I also want to thank our friends at TD Bank for generously sponsoring this morning's program. In particular, I would like to thank Connie Brennan, who has served on the New England Council's board for many years, as well as Cheryl McQuaid, the bank's regional president for Northern New England, who will introduce our guest in just a few moments. Well, 2023 has been a great year for the New England Council, and yet we have a very busy calendar for this spring. In the next several weeks, we look forward to Capitol Hill gatherings here in New England with Congressman David Cicilline tomorrow in Providence, Congressman Stephen Lynch, and Congressman Bill Keating. In Washington, D.C., we will host a Capitol Conversation breakfast with Congressman Seth Moulton later this month. And of course, we're looking forward to our 2023 Washington Leaders Conference on May 10th and 11th in our nation's capital. We do hope that you'll join us for what promises to be a very busy and productive couple of days, meeting with members of Congress, congressional staff, federal agency leaders. There are also sponsorship opportunities available, and you can contact either Larry Zabar or myself. As always, you can find more information and register for all our events on our website, newenglandcouncil.com. And again, I thank all of you for joining us today, and now I'm pleased to hand it over to Cheryl McQuaid of TD Bank.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you to the New England Council for allowing TD Bank to sponsor this morning's breakfast, introduce our honorable speaker, and tell you a little bit about TD Bank. What a great crowd, and good morning to everyone. As Jim said, my name's Cheryl McQuaid, and I'm the regional president of New England for TD Bank, and I'm really pleased to be here on a beautiful spring morning. Thanks. I think Jim said this is about a 500-person crowd if we're just rounding up. Good to see you all. Like the New England Council, TD Bank has deep and widespread roots in New England. We have 314 locations, and soon to be 315. We're opening a new store in Jamaica Plain on April 21st. We'd love for you to all come check us out. And we have more than 6,000 colleagues across the 6 New England states. So most of you probably know us from our crown jewel right here in Boston, TD Garden. But TD Bank's impact and partnerships span far beyond just our fantastic sponsorship of New England's home for sports and entertainment. TD Bank delivers banking products and services through diverse lines of business and a market-based approach with teams right here who are active, lending money, taking deposits, building advice conversations in various industries like healthcare, not-for-profit, higher education, commercial real estate, small business, and SBA, where we're proudly #1 across our U.S. footprint, Maine to Florida. Our regional approach ensures that we have local decision-making and that we care about the concerns and unique opportunities across New England. We can only deliver this market-based approach if we retain and nurture talent in this area. As we all know, New England's aging workforce is a challenge for most industries, and we have a responsibility, all of us in this room, to address this. TD Bank is deeply invested in developing professionals and keeping talent here in our 6 New England states. We offer many career development, mentoring, and training programs that support colleagues across all stages of their career, and their career journeys as diverse individuals and allies. We also offer competitive wages to ensure that we're supporting a sustainable economy. And TD believes strongly that we succeed when our community members thrive too. That's why you'll soon be hearing about a $2 million investment by our charitable foundation in affordable housing organizations right here in New England to fulfill that will fulfill their needs in our rural and urban areas. We also have deep professional relationships with professional organizations across New England and with many of you in this room, and we value the leadership of our elected officials. That's why I'm especially pleased to introduce today's speaker, Governor Maura Healey of Massachusetts. Not only is she a strong woman making a difference with bringing a diverse and inclusive voice in support of her constituents, but the priorities for her term, like TD's, are aligned nicely. I've had the opportunity to meet and hear Governor Healey and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll speak about their priorities to collaborate to make Massachusetts a place where every worker, business, and family can succeed, and to strengthen its sustainable and competitive economy. Governor Healey's budget and tax proposals focus on easing cost pressures, creating career opportunities, and building talent, supporting children, and growing technology and clean energy in Massachusetts. She's also a lifelong lover of basketball and a fierce sports competitor. So, I thought we'd have some fun today with both the B's and the C's heading straight for the playoffs. And because today is actually Fan Appreciation Day for the Bruins, we're going to raffle off a piece of history. I hope you all saw out front the box with TD Bank and TD Garden named on it, and put your business cards in there. We're going to let Jim do the honors after the governor's remarks and see who can win a piece of history, because the Bruins, as you all know, are now holding the record for the most regular season wins and might clinch another piece of history later this week. So with that, I am pleased to welcome Governor Maura Healey to the podium.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you. Thank you so much. That was such a warm introduction, Cheryl. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your applause, which, you know, I accept really on behalf of this entire team. This Healey Driscoll administration is all about teamwork. Those of us working inside of government, those of you working outside of government, helping to move Massachusetts forward. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come before you today as your governor. You're right, Jim, I've had the pleasure of being here many times, but this is in a new capacity. But it's always a wonderful event getting to see so many familiar faces and so many people who are really all about making New England as strong as it possibly can be. So thank you for that. Thank you, Cheryl, too. We are psyched about the Bruins and the Celtics. I love it. It's so great. We've got to get some titles back in town. I want some parades. We want some celebrations, some banners. It's great. So hopefully they'll hold together and play well here down the stretch. But I want to thank you for that introduction, Cheryl. More importantly, for the role that TD plays in our local economy. And there's a lot of great work that TD Bank does for its customers, for our businesses, and really through its innovation and thinking about new ways to grow. So we thank you for that partnership. We also thank Jim Brett. A few weeks ago, the Lieutenant Governor and I had an opportunity to visit his food pantry that he runs every year in honor of his dear mother. And Jim, whether it's through the New England Council or through other endeavors, there's no person who better exemplifies working to make community better and to bring people into community. So, Jim, I look forward to our work together. I appreciate all that you and the council have done for our communities, our states, our economy, and we look forward to continued partnership. I want to begin this morning by acknowledging some of the folks on our team. Our fabulous Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll is here with us this morning. You've all come to know. We're both college basketball players, and I can just tell you, she is the absolute best teammate that I could have and the best teammate for our state. She's out around the state day in and day out, hustling, working on behalf of so many important issues and priority, whether it's housing or workforce. She is there in every corner and a great, great resource to the entire Commonwealth. And we've had fun putting together a cabinet, haven't we? It's like draft picks, and it's like, we know how to do this. Joining us this morning, we have a fabulous Undersecretary of Economic Development, Ashley Stolba, who many of you have come to work with. But I do want to say something about the people who've joined our administration. I think if you've had a chance to meet any number of them, our secretaries and our climate chief, they are rock stars in their own right. Any one of them could be leading whole organizations. In fact, some have led very substantial organizations. But I think, what I want to emphasize is that team was carefully assembled to be a team that is about working together, breaking down silos and the balkanization that sometimes exists, within state government, so they're actually getting things done. Our job is to drive innovation. We want to be nimble. We want to be responsive. We want to be pragmatic. We approach our challenges, problems that together we solve, and some of these problems are pretty damn challenging right now. But I know that with that team and with the partnership, communication, collaboration between and among all of us in this room, we're going to get Massachusetts where it needs to be, where it deserves to be. And that leads me to another comment. Some of you may have read yesterday, we made an announcement that in the wake of a really crazy decision by a handpicked judge in Amarillo, Texas. There are these groups out there. I used to be a lawyer. So what you do is you see some of these organizations out there judge shopping, and they found the one federal district court judge in Amarillo, Texas, who was put there by a former president because of his anti-abortion record, who then, as we know last week, essentially tried to ban mifepristone, which has been the gold standard for medication abortion, which is the way in which the vast majority of abortions are actually performed in this country. He found a way to try to ban that. And so we took action as a state. We'd been anticipating this, our administration, and we worked quickly with the University of Massachusetts to essentially stockpile doses so women here or women who may come here won't have to worry about receiving care. I'm grateful to the University of Massachusetts for its partnership. And Good. I'm glad you feel that way. We had the University of Massachusetts. We had any number of our wonderful hospitals and healthcare providers also stepping forward to make these purchases, because our goal and my goal was two things. One, make sure that medication is available. And number two, make sure that we are protecting our providers, our pharmacists, our prescribers, which is why I also issued an executive order declaring that with respect to insurance coverage, licensure, people were going to be protected. Abortion will remain safe, legal, and accessible here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts now and for always. And I just want to point out something as well, and it's, as you can tell, I have a lot of passion about this, and it certainly goes to the issue of protecting women's reproductive freedom and autonomy and the freedom to make decisions for oneself. It also strikes at the core of who we are in Massachusetts, and that is something that everyone in this room, I want you to take to heart. This is a judge who is willing to throw out 20 years of medical expertise, scientific expertise, and totally upend the way the FDA does business. We're a state. Our bread and butter, our calling card has been healthcare, has been life sciences, has been R&D. Look at all the venture, poured into the innovations, the medications, the technologies that have done so much for this world, including getting us through a terrible pandemic. So if a judge can do that on something like MIFI, imagine what other judges can do, which is why I'm confident that at the end of the day, we'll see our way through this. But I do think it's a time to be strong and speak out, because a lot is at stake at this time. And, for those who thought that Dobbs would be the end of it, no, they will never stop. There are elements, extremist elements, that won't stop, that won't cease, that will not relent. And all of us need to be really strong about who we are, the values, the freedoms that we prize here in Massachusetts, and what we as Massachusetts stand for. Which also brings me to a couple themes I want to talk about today. If there's anything you take away from this morning's discussion, other than a Bruins sweater, if you're lucky to win that, I don't even think I have a card. I would have dropped it in the thing. Two things. One, Team Massachusetts, okay? I really mean it. We mean it. It is about Team Massachusetts. It is about teaming up. It is about working together across this great state. We welcome, and I'll speak more about our partnerships with our New England partners, which also are strong. But it's about Team Massachusetts, working together to do great things, to move us forward. It's also about playing to win. Playing to win. We've got to compete. We're in a time right now in our country where so many other states, other cities are chasing federal funds, chasing opportunity. We see outmigration from Massachusetts. 100,000 people left our state the last couple of years. You experience this every day with the advent of remote work, what that makes possible. The fact of the matter is, we protect freedoms here. We protect freedoms in so many ways. We're the best state in the country to get educated in. We also have our challenges, we know, when it comes to higher costs. Housing, childcare, electricity. All these things our administration is going to work on and going to work on with all of you. But we're at a critical point right now. We're at a critical point for our state. And I just want all of us to come together with this mentality like we're going to play to win. When we make calls to all of you to work on bids, procurements, to work on federal funding opportunities, I hope you join us. Many of you have. Many of you have. It will benefit our entire state, all of us working together. So those are the couple of themes that I just want you to leave with. Team Massachusetts, and we are playing to win. Now, as governor, a big focus of my administration so far has been on, well, other than trying to file a budget, which is interesting in 8 weeks. Jesus. It's $55 billion, right? I mean, it's an interesting, you move from, I ran a shop of about 600 people to one of about, with a, I don't know, what do we have, $50 million budget, $60 million budget, to about 50,000 employees and a $55 billion a year budget. But that's why we have a fantastic team. And the team worked hard to put that budget together. We also presented a tax relief package, which I think is really important, because making lives more affordable is going to help us build a strong economy that's going to help retain people here in the States. It's going to keep employers from leaving Massachusetts, and we're really focused on this. So I know that a couple things really factor in on that. One is the strong workforce, creating a stronger workforce. We want to invest in this effort with you because we know that everybody's hurting when it comes to workforce. We also need to, as I said, focus on high-quality early education and childcare as part of that effort to support workforce, because so many have left during COVID, so many are not returning because the math doesn't work when it comes to thinking through childcare costs. And I know that's something that the business community has been very engaged in. We need to stay engaged in together. Investments in our workforce are also critical in addressing the reskilling and upskilling that unemployed and underemployed need to succeed in our economy. Our workforce development efforts will also aim to increase diversity in high-demand career pathways like technology, the trades, healthcare, finance, biomanufacturing, and more, which is a way to help create more equity for workers. To do this, we're focused on skills-based training for both adults and young people. A few weeks ago, I was at Bunker Hill Community College with the Lieutenant Governor. We were talking about one of the programs that we've proposed. It's called Mass Reconnect. It's about bringing those who are 25 years old and older back into the workforce. Get them some credentialing, get them in school, get them on a pathway to actual jobs. And that's what Mass Reconnect is all about. Because too many people, have just fallen off maybe an education path because it became unaffordable, or other things happened that led them to leave. So Mass Reconnect, I think it's a super great idea, and it can make a big difference for a lot of folks out there. Last week we were in Millbury. We went out to the New England Carpenters Training Center, and here they are training apprentices for great jobs and doing great things. And that's why our budget supports not only Mass Reconnect. It also supports apprenticeship programs, making historic investments, in fact, in apprenticeships with an additional $5 million for employers for the registered apprenticeship program. We expect that to create over 1,000 new apprenticeships in the next fiscal year alone. So focusing on this work is really important to us. And, I think that we can also get there by thinking about kids at an earlier age. The other day we were in Fitchburg High School, and we were there to talk about early college. This is the program that we strongly support that allows kids in high school to actually attend a community college or a state university or college and get credits towards a college degree while they're in high school. And so we sat with a group of, 15, 20 of these high school students. It was phenomenal. They've been in school, they've gotten some credentials, and they're working on that, which helps financially, save a little bit. But I think more importantly, it's opened up their eyes, too, to what's out there and got them focused on career and workforce and all these things. So we're big proponents of early college, which is also why in our budget we propose significant funding for early college, for innovation pathways, for ways to get more kids in the pipeline earlier. It is not the school that we went to when we were in junior high and high school. It's a different day and age, and we've got to meet these young people where they are, and it's programming, investments like that really matter. So we proposed an additional $14.4 million for early college and innovation pathways alone. That's nearly a 45% increase in funding to expand these programs. But we all know it's absolutely needed. In terms of workforce, how many of you have met Secretary Lauren Jones? Have you met her yet? I love it. Good hands. They're really out there trying to get everywhere. Well, you get to know Lauren. She's working with a workforce skills cabinet that we actually expanded. So it basically ties together a number of our agencies, all meeting regularly with one another to drive workforce development in the state. And business is at the table in those discussions and will be at the table in those discussions. Another thing I mentioned in addition to workforce was this idea about competing. I know that Rebecca Diaz is here from Analog Devices. Early on, I think the first couple of weeks of our administration, we had a chance to go out and visit Analog, which we know is a multinational company based right here in Cambridge and is now worldwide. It's a company that is an example of how innovations can help create jobs and build an ecosystem here in Massachusetts. And we know we're at a critical juncture right now, and a time right now when it comes to some of what we can do in this space. We want to drive. The reason we went there is because we were committed, particularly in light of the CHIPS and Science Act, finding ways to really support some of our sectors here. And we want to drive the semiconductor and chip innovation and manufacturing sectors, which will strengthen our scientific and business communities. So that's why we are working together. I think as of today, we've got 85 plus organizations, entities, public, private, including industry leaders like Analog Devices, Raytheon, BAE, across 8 northeastern states, so this is NEC in action, submitting a proposal to the Department of Defense for funding for their Microelectronics Commons program. This is a program that's going to be, I think they estimate to be $1.5 to $2 billion in money coming in over the next 5 years to hubs around the country. And we believe we are well situated and deserving in terms of an ROI on this. We are well positioned. So I thank many of you in this room who are working with us to submit that proposal. If we were to win everything in our proposal, our state would stand to get about $400 million in funding. That will mean new jobs, groundbreaking research, workforce programs, resources, and more to both large players, but also to some of our early startups. And again, for us, this is about reclaiming leadership in an area where, we were the ones who started it. A lot of others have gone out and developed it, but this is what I mean in playing to win and competing. It's about reclaiming Massachusetts leadership in this time. And CHIPS is just the beginning. The Biden administration, as you know, has made investing in manufacturing, healthcare, climate, and clean energy also priorities. There'll be additional opportunities. ARPA-H. When we came in, Secretary Howe, who's met Secretary Howe? Yvonne Howe? All right. Well, you're going to meet her, those of you who haven't already. Yvonne Howe comes to us. I recruited her, never worked in state government, was at Bain and a venture capitalist and ran many companies. But she and I met last spring at an event organized, and she was really committed to Massachusetts. How do we make Massachusetts great? How do we get to where we need to be? And her whole focus is economic development. So I know she's been out meeting with many of you, and will meet with others of you. But one of the things she came in right away is to help organize ARPA-H, which is another important federal funding program that will advance medical breakthroughs in cutting-edge therapies. And we are working right now. She's also working very closely with Quentin Palfrey. I hired for the first time a federal funds director. That's how competitive this stuff is. If you don't think that Austin and Miami and Raleigh have these people, they do. It's time that Massachusetts have these people. And so I've hired a team to get after it. Because you see over the last few years where some of those dollars have gone, but I want them here in Massachusetts. ARPA-H, this is a great opportunity for life sciences, for research. This has been our calling card, and so more on that. Another area of focus is clean energy. I've said for a long time that I think we can create a climate corridor here in the state that stretches all the way from the Berkshires to Barnstable, that harnesses clean energy and clean energy innovation, climate technology. We realize, right, that like all of this stuff that is going to power us away from fossil fuels towards renewables, it's not all of it, but a lot of it is developed right here in Boston and in Cambridge. So let's own it, right? Let's own it, and let's find a way to spread that around the state. And that's something that Rebecca Tepper, our great Energy and Environmental Secretary, is having a lot of conversations about in connection with the country's first ever climate chief. I appointed a climate chief. She sits atop all the secretariats. Why? Because climate and climate considerations run through transportation, housing, economic development, healthcare even. Think about resilience in our hospitals. I know many are looking at these issues. And so we've got this unique opportunity in Massachusetts to tie this together and think about ways we can go across the state. In some places, it's going to be innovation and R&D. In other places, it's going to be manufacturing. Look at what's happening in terms of energy sources and the potential, right, with offshore wind. It's super exciting stuff. We got a case up in Maine, Connie, right? We're going to figure out whether or not we're going to be able to get that pipeline through here. A lot of exciting opportunity. And one thing that I appreciate, is this opportunity to leverage substantial federal funding. All those three major acts from the Biden administration are estimated to be about $1 trillion in climate funding. They're really climate bills. So the more we position ourselves as embracing this, right, the more likely we are to win this. And part of that demonstration, part of what we need to demonstrate is workforce, which is why our administration is putting such a heavy emphasis on this. There's a program out there, the Northeast Hydrogen Hub. It's going to create tons of opportunities for good-paying jobs, local jobs. It'll prioritize equity. It'll enable, importantly, significant progress on all of our climate goals. And again, we're talking about serious federal dollars out there to decarbonize industries. That's what we're competing for. So what I did is, and this was Secretary Tepper's idea, this is why you hire people who are a lot smarter than you and just get out of their way. She said, if we're going to do this, Maura, we need to be thinking regionally. We are not going to get there alone as Massachusetts. It's going to require a lot of regional work and work with our federal partners. So she created a new Office of Regional and Federal Leadership. And I'm very proud Massachusetts has already been organizing and convening with other states to think about transmission, grid, infrastructure. Because if we don't figure that out, we're not going to get to where we need to be when it comes to electrification and our move away from fossil fuels. So that's some of what is happening, but I just wanted to mention that because it is an important part of our agenda. It's the right thing to do. We must do it. We have an imperative to address climate change. We have an economic imperative to address climate change, and it's why I propose meeting ambition with investments, proposing for the first time ever in Massachusetts history that 1% of our state's budget would go towards climate. Also creating for the first time environmental justices offices around the state, people actually on the ground working in community on development and different issues. I've also proposed tripling the budget for the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, which is the engine really that helps so much with clean energy, entrepreneurship, innovation, job creation, and the like. So I'm excited about that effort, but again, this is something that's going to take partnership. So I'm gonna close and get to the Q&A portion of this with our friend Jim, but I just want to say, number one, how grateful I am, and I know Lieutenant Governor Driscoll shares this sentiment as well. We are so grateful to have the opportunity to serve this state. We recognize there are challenges out there, big challenges, but we also appreciate them as opportunities. Through COVID, we learned a whole lot about new ways of doing things, about how to reimagine ways of doing things. And I want to bring that same spirit to the work of government. Let's figure out new ways of doing things and doing things better. And I believe that we get there through teamwork, through partnership, through collaboration. So I invite you into our administration and hope for many conversations, many collaborations, and I am ever, ever hopeful, not only in the Bruins and the Celtics and even the Red Sox. Yeah. But I am ever, ever hopeful about Massachusetts. My money is on this great state. Thank you, everybody.
You bring the jersey up.
Oh, yeah, the jersey.
We have time for a few questions, and if I could just ask the first question of the governor. First of all, your initiative on the climate change and working together as a region, we, the New England Council, embrace that idea, and we look forward to working with you because that's what the New England Council is about, working together, because we feel as a region we have strength. We have 12% of the United States Senate. Right here in New England, we only have 13.5 million people. My colleague in California, we worked on a trade bill, and 43 million people, but 2 senators. So we have a gem here in New England, so we look forward to working with you and your administration. Quick question, Silicon Valley Bank, when it collapsed, there were shock waves throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in particular health startups and tech startups, but more importantly, affordable housing organizations also felt that there was an earthquake occurring. What has been the damage, and are there any lessons learned from that?
Thanks for the question. I think this was something, and I think we're still assessing what the ramifications of this are. And obviously, there are others looking at what needs to happen from a regulatory perspective, and those discussions will be ongoing. I guess I'd say a couple things. One, I appreciated from the very early days that Massachusetts, like California, was disproportionately affected by this, not only because we have a number of venture folks here in Massachusetts, but also we do have a number of other folks, because of earlier acquisitions, who were bank customers, who were also really affected. Everything from smaller nonprofits all the way up to some major housing developers. And housing is the priority for us. When the LG and I talk about making Massachusetts more competitive, and when we talk about the out-migration, I grew up in New Hampshire. I don't want to see people going to New Hampshire, okay? I want them staying here. Because you know what? Your kids are going to get educated. You're going to have access to health care. We protect your freedom, whether you're an LGBT kid or a woman in need of abortion. You know, we could go on. But the fact of the matter is, housing, big issue. So that's why it's such a priority. So to that end, recognizing, you know, that this was affecting so many of our entities here in Massachusetts, we quickly convened. That Friday, that Thursday, as news was starting to break, Secretary Howe got on the phone. She organized calls with all of the banks. She and her team organized calls with all the housing developers and others affected by this. And over the course of the weekend, we were able to have a good sense of the inventory affected, and we were able to do direct advocacy, not only to our delegation, but I did and others did directly to the Biden administration, to Economic Council, to those who needed to hear from us. And so, you know, it was a very unfortunate but a good sort of test run of open communication, direct and quick nimbleness. And, you know, we came through that, but I think there are real questions about, you know, how we support particularly our regional banks, you know, how we make sure that people have the confidence, because so much of this, as we know, is about feeling. And, you know, you think about contagion and what's really going on there, it's about feeling. So how do we give the right signals around stability, around security? And, you know, I think it's something that we need to continue to watch, including, you know, look, we'll leave it to others to figure out where to put their money and what should happen from a regulatory perspective. But, you know, something was off here, and I expect that will get adjusted. But I think it's very important for us to talk about, and I do believe in tremendous confidence in our regional banks and in this region. And, you know, we'll continue to do what we can as an administration to being open to find ways to support folks through this time.
Question for the governor. Again, we have limited amount of time. And if you do have a question, identify yourself so she knows who you are. You know, when you ask a tough question, she's going to be... All of a sudden, John Statler, PwC.
Governor John Statler, thank you very much for your time. I guess my question is around private organizations investing in our people in Massachusetts and how we can best work with the state, not looking for things from the state, but rather to work with them. For example, I'm on the board of the American Red Cross, trying to do things to help our state be ready when the time comes, but really trying to think about how do we work with your administration. Another example would be organizations trying to help people over 65, and how do we look at that affected part of our population coming out of the pandemic.
Thanks for the question, John. I'm just such a big proponent of public-private partnership, and this is what I mean when I talk about Team Massachusetts. That's where we have our greatest success, and I think, you know, knowing some of the ethos, the philosophy, the vibe of so many in this room, people are down for it. They want to help, and we'll all be better for it. I was in the bunker. I know I got off this winter. I didn't have much snow, so I didn't have any major things to deal with. But I did visit the bunker a couple times to thank folks, especially a few weeks ago when those terrible storms were coming through, a lot of rain, a lot of wind. And in the bunker, I was going around talking to different people, and I came across a person from the Red Cross. The state has in the bunker always a person from the Red Cross on staff, on site, ready to assist communities with the aid, with the supplies, with the volunteers that they need. And it's just to say there are so many spaces where we can have these partnerships. How do we get there? I think we as a team need to take the meetings, have conversations, take the ideas. Because as I say, when people, one of the worst things you can say to me is, well, this is the way we've always done things. This is the way we do it. Yeah, no. Like, there are different ways of doing things, And I think those partnerships are great. So I think talking directly with each secretariat, each cabinet that's affected or intersects potentially, we are open for ideas, and I know we'll have a lot of opportunities to work together. Also, we need it. I mean, at the end of the day, government cannot cover what we need to. You talk about human services and the real needs out there. It breaks my heart that anyone in this state is going to bed hungry. It breaks my heart that anyone tonight is looking for housing. I go do these events, and inevitably, at different ones, someone will come up. They'll be waiting. They'll be waiting outside often, unable to find housing tonight. And so, as governor, I think about what can I do to help? What can I do to help the kids who are vulnerable right now, who may be getting abused, who may be taken advantage of, who are scared? And government alone, this, we can't do it alone. It's all of us working together. So thanks for the question, John.
Joe Dalton. Joe Dalton.
Governor, thank you so much. Joe Dalton from NG and Maytep. So energy is my industry. Thank you for climate leadership there. Thank you for the team you've assembled. They're great. On behalf of my wife and daughter, thank you for your leadership on reproductive rights. But my question, my daughter is a senior at a technical high school, Minuteman. And just after the holiday, she's interviewing now, getting into an apprenticeship program in all likelihood. My nephew, just out of college, has $160,000 in student debt. Is there, building off of what you were talking about with respect to apprenticeship programs, what about deploying our community colleges, our state universities to take the model from the technical high school and just kind of blow that out in terms of higher education, so that those kids who maybe hadn't figured it out in the way that my daughter had perhaps in high school have that opportunity for postgraduate as a way to really enhance the workforce initiatives that are taking place. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe. Look, Massachusetts, we embrace education in all its forms, right? All its forms. So four-year college, yes. We proposed historic funding levels for higher ed. Actually, so important. We're home to the first public school in the country, the first public library. We've been about, making sure that people are educated. Education, though, looks different to different people, which is also why we propose big-time support for our community colleges, for vocational programs, including those that extend to high schools like Minuteman. Great school, doing great things, setting young people up for great careers. So I think we look at this as education across a range of educational providers. And I think you make a great point. Anybody who's got kids in college or facing college, it's steep. And it doesn't mean you don't invest and do that, but it does mean there are great opportunities out there. And to meet, last week when we were in the Carpenters, you're starting off in an apprenticeship program. You actually are earning money as you go, and you're going to be debt-free with the specter of six figures in a relatively short amount of time with benefits and health care and the like. So, that's exactly, Joe, why we've made budget proposals to invest in our community colleges and in our vocational schools. One of the conversations that we've been having, it ties to workforce, of course. What are the programs out there being offered? First off, what's the inventory? What do employers have right now for jobs? What do we need to fill? And then who's got the programming in our community colleges or other educational institutions to get that done, to deliver it? And we're going to need that kind of intentionality of focus right now, not tomorrow, but right now, in order to fill workforce needs. And I also think it's going to be great for our educational institutions as well, and breathe more life, additional life into to programming there.
I know we have a limited amount of time, but there are two people that wanted to ask questions. But if it could be quick questions. Udit Batra from Waters Corporation, former New Englander of the Year.
Thank you very much for your wonderful comments. I represent Waters Corporation, which is headquartered in Milford. We're a global organization with roughly 8,000 of us. Some of our largest customers are in the life science space, and I was especially thrilled to hear your focus on that segment, and you talked about the CHIPS Act. Do you have similar initiatives going on to bring in more funding from the federal government to enhance access to cell and gene therapies to tremendous biologics innovation, which were really invented largely in the Commonwealth, especially in this area where we are in currently, but they are super expensive. They're very slow to get to the market. And one of our ambitions as Waters is to bring these much faster to patients. Who can we work with? What are the programs that you have in mind that could allow us to work with the other stakeholders?
I'm so glad you asked this question. The people you should be working with are Secretary Yvonne Howe and Undersecretary Ashley Stolba, who's here today. You can go see her right after. Look, I've said I want to lean into life sciences. You know, we put life sciences on the map. We're the global epicenter for life sciences. We are not going to stay the global epicenter unless we compete, unless we make those investments. It's why you saw more investments in things like, of course, Life Sciences Center, but beyond that, you see this administration talking a lot and spending a lot of time with folks in life sciences because, again, this is core to who we are in Massachusetts. And our job is to make sure that people don't just study here and research here and incubate here. We want them to stay here and grow here, and that requires intentionality. I do not want to see happen what happened back with high tech years ago in the move to Silicon Valley. It's not going to happen on my watch. I don't want that to happen. But we need to work together to make sure that doesn't happen. Again, when you're competing, look at what's going on I know what's going on in North Carolina. I know what's going on in Austin, right? I hope yesterday reminds folks, though, why you should be in Massachusetts. We're going to work on housing. But okay, you want to set up operations down there, and maybe, there are benefits to that, but also at what cost? At what cost to your employees? People who have kids right now deciding on where to go to college, this stuff is real in this country, because it's not just what happened in Texas. You see what's happening, what some other states are doing by legislatures that have become so extreme. So back to life sciences, again, it's our calling card, and it really is such a foundational part of our ecosystem here, and this is where collaboration comes in. Investment in the Science Act, competition for these federal funds. This is why I have a federal funds director in charge of chasing all of this with our agencies so that we have the best proposals, the best bids going forward. It's why you see more of us. We've probably spent more time in D.C., as a team already in the first 3 months than we have as a state in a long time. But it's time. So we welcome more collaboration on all of that.
Sandy Lish, quick question.
It's also why we need immigration reform. We as a state are held back because we're held back. We need immigration reform.
Governor Healey, Sandy Lish from the Castle Group with laryngitis, sorry. I'll try to make it quick. Despite all of the wonderful things that we have in this state and all of the things that you're leading us on and Lieutenant Governor and others are leading on, one place where we're struggling is around extremism, anti-Semitism, racism. We've all seen the numbers that have come out recently. There are a lot of people in this room. How can we as a business community help to make people aware of what's happening and help to combat it with your administration?
Thanks, Sandy. I know it's been so upsetting. The last few years we've just seen more of this just real ugliness unleashed, and it seems like people feel more of a license maybe to engage in this. I don't know what it is, but I think call it out wherever you see it within your organizations. Take swift action. Make sure you're communicating, though, on the front end. Don't wait for bad things to happen. Do all you can to create a welcoming, supportive environment. Have the difficult conversations that you need to have. Encourage that, within your teams when it comes to understanding race, when it comes to understanding religion. I could go on, but I think doing work before there's an incident is important, and then when there is an incident, also reach out. The Attorney General's office, they have a great civil rights team. They actually work directly with folks, whether it's something happens in a school or something happens, elsewhere in a community. They can be a thought partner on some of this, but taking swift action is important, and I think well, there's a lot more I could say about it, Sandy, but raising everybody's awareness that this stuff is real, and the rise of anti-Semitism in particular is real across this country.
Well,
Are we wrapping up?
I keep hearing
Oh,
from
there's another
different,
question.
different administration people saying that the schedule is tight. Governor,
It's my fault.
yeah, no, it's not your fault. I just want to thank the governor, lieutenant governor. I mean, I don't know about you, but isn't it refreshing to see a team, the governor, lieutenant governor, working together and reaching out to the business community, saying, look, we don't have all the answers, but you people have all the talent, and come and join us and help us solve the problem. So I think it's refreshing. She's thrown out the challenge to us, so we need to react and hopefully accept, because there's an awful lot of talent in this room, and we all want Massachusetts to do well, and we have a great leader as well as the lieutenant governor. So we're fortunate, and I just want to thank the governor, lieutenant governor again, for always being available and accessible. What a nice message it sends, not only just to Massachusetts, but throughout the country. Massachusetts is open for business. It's great. So, Governor, because